let's get into why we are all here tonight. So first of all, I gotta put on my glasses for this. So for those of you that are not new, last year we did what we called our coach approach. And we did a whole night right here in the Facebook group talking about coaching. And you loved the intimacy so much, the conversation, and more importantly, getting to know the people that are the coaches at Order Out of Chaos. So this year, we wanted to bring you something similar, but we are not going to be talking about coaching. So we're not here to sell you coaching. We are actually here to present a roundtable to really, what does it mean to be a successful student in this day and age? Post-COVID world, 21st century, 2023, because so many of you, your questions, whether it's here or in our webinars or in our parent coaching, that's ultimately what you're looking for, is how to build, to be honest, how to build that student. So I sure as heck wasn't going to do it alone. I am here to introduce to you three of my absolute favorite people. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but this is Keith Sesner, Sarah Weingarten, and John Gasner, and they are Order Out of Chaos's coaches. And I'm going to tell you that their answers will be definitely more profound and prolific than mine, because they are really in the trenches these days with your students. So I will be giving a little bit of my feels, but I'm really going to let them do the talking. So how's this going to work? We are doing 20 questions for 20 years. We'll see if we get to them. I will be asking them some questions. We will stop to also take your questions. So please, please, please drop your questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. In the comment section. I will be moderating. They will be answering. But here's the fun part. If you would like to celebrate our 20th anniversary, we will be giving away 1 hour of free coaching. You don't get to pick your coach. I do. Okay, it doesn't work that way, friends. But do not drop it in the comment section. Here's what you have to do. You have to send an email to info@orderoochaos.com. And all you have to write is 20 in the subject line, and one of you will be chosen, notified, and you will get paired up with a coach. 1 hour of free coaching to use any way you want. So I hope you will do that by email. All right, are you guys ready? All right, let's do it. All right, are you all ready? Hello, everyone. I'm just looking, hold on. Tech is so not my thing. Okay, yes, we have got lots of people. You know what I'm gonna do before? I'm gonna drop in the comments our email so that all of you have it. And this way you can just copy and paste it into an email, and all you have to do is write the number 20 in the subject. Okay, everybody good? All right, first question goes to all of you. Let's define, if we're talking about what it means to be a successful student, I think it's really important to define success. Because I think all of us, not just us as coaches, but also our friends at home, are defining success very differently, possibly even them from us. So I am going to start with Sarah. How do you define success in a student? You've been with me the longest, so you go first.
For me, it's really about continuous improvement. So as long as you're seeing growth in the student, they're being successful, because they can be at, all different places in their journey, but as long as they're growing, they're successful.
I love that. Did everybody hear that? Continuous improvement. I love that. I love that because it's hopeful. I love that because it's not stagnant. That's amazing. I love that. Okay, John, you're next. How do you define success? I know. How do you follow that?
Hard act to follow. So
That's
I'll
okay.
take that. I'd say confident in their abilities to achieve their goals, however they define their goals.
I want you all to know I'm taking notes. I love that. I love the word confident too, because I think that is the purpose of what we do. All right, confident. I love yours. All right, Keith, hard act to follow.
Well, so you both stole my thunder there, right? I was going to say it's not all about the grades. It's really about confidence in who they are and setting goals and their accomplishments. But I think a really successful student understands the power of failure and the lessons there. So learning from failure and recognizing it's okay to fail. It's not a bad thing. Grow from it. That's how you improve. If you don't fail, you don't get better. You just stay the
Am I
same.
allowed to say I've trained you also? I'm kidding. I have not trained you well. Those are like beyond answers. But yes, I love the failure part of it. It's almost like getting comfortable in their failure. Well, and I'm gonna even say this because I think tonight I'm gonna be the bad cop and let you all be the good cop here. Is that appropriate? I don't know. I'm sorry. Is that it's also I think part of being a successful student is also parents allowing their being comfortable with failure. I would like to add that in. Okay, kind of a lightning round. And I'm going to play along too, but I'm going to start now with you, John. Name your top 2 life/school skills you feel every student needs to be successful. Now we're talking skill. So we've kind of been at 36,000 level, and now we're going to take it down to the ground.
Sure. Time management and a growth mindset.
Okay, I can't write that fast. Time management, okay, and growth
And a growth mind. Yeah.
Great. I love that. Keith.
I was going to say time management and organizational skills. And I think those 2 specifically, because you're going to take those into the workforce with you, whatever you're doing. So it's not just a skill for school.
Okay, you guys can repeat, like meaning if you feel, okay, all right, no, because these are yours. So if you name your top 2 life/school skills.
Yeah, so I think time management for me, seeing their time is the top one. And then it's learning how to get started on things is probably my second one.
Is that
initiating?
Okay?
Initiating the task. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna play along too. No, I am, because believe it or not, one of mine is not any of yours, and mine is willpower. My first one is willpower. I feel that, and again, I'm a time management girl. We all know that. So, but I feel that willpower is something that every student needs. Student or life skill to be truly successful, because, and I don't even mean willpower like that you're not doing something dangerous, but it could be as benign as, hey, I'm working on my paper and my friends go, hey, do you want to go get a manicure and frozen yogurt? You need willpower to say, you know what, right now that does not work for me. I need to be doing this right now. So willpower is my number 1, and I will actually go on a limb and say learning how to ask questions. Those are my 2. Okay. How are we doing at home? Everybody good? Oh, yes. Definitely getting started for us. Learns from mistakes. People are like enjoying the process of learning. Great. Wow. Love these definitions of success. Okay. Here we go again. Number 1 tip I'm sorry, I need to put my glasses on. That would be helpful. See, don't want to admit how old I am. Number 1 tip for more effective homework or studying. In this instance, we're going to combine homework and studying, even though when I talk about them, I actually talk about them very differently. But for this, I want the number 1 tip you feel a student really needs to have to be the most effective or the most productive in homework and studying. And here we're going to start with Keith.
So, for sure, planning it out ahead of time and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks that they can handle. But I think it depends on the student too, right? Every student learns differently. Everybody does homework differently. Some can go 2 hours straight. Some need breaks. I think it's understanding how they operate, where they work the best, and then just planning it out ahead of time and having a plan. And if they follow the plan, they're going to be successful. So
it sounds like for you, I just want to make sure that I am hearing you. It would be, because we talk a lot about this at Order Out of Chaos. So for all of you at home, these are trained coaches. I want you to know that, but then they kind of come to me and I love them and I'm holding on to them tight. And we talk a little bit about when I work with them on the Order Out of Chaos, like, I don't want to say way, because it doesn't mean they don't coach their way, but we are very big at honing in on your kids' best practices. And the more out of the box, the better, right? And I kind of defined my coaching by being the girl who have kids doing math in the bath, like, meaning as long as it works for them and it's comfortable for them. So I think, Keith, that's what you're saying, like tapping into their best practices. So, and then the planning piece. Okay, Sarah, I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, mine was very similar to Keith, so I'm going to give a different one. I think it's sometimes having a study buddy. So kids, often it could be boring. So pairing up with someone, even getting on Zoom with someone, but so you're not alone. Yeah, I'll give that one.
I like that one. Sharing the load.
Yes.
Because that is what it does. Okay, John, what's yours?
Well, it was the same as Keith. So if we're getting to give a second one, I put down know thyself, like how you best operate.
Okay.
I think that fits very much in the frame of order-out of chaos. And then the other thing is, which I have indoctrinated myself from being now part of the order out of chaos group, is write everything down.
So I'm going to share something with all of you and also all of you at home. So if you know that order, and it's a good thing to talk about because we are 20 years old today. And this I am allowed to say, Order Out of Chaos started when my son was 5 years old. So he is 25. And I am very careful now, obviously, what I say about him because he's 25. He's not 8. And it's not cute anymore. Well, he's cute, but it's not cute. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, he will say to this day, if people ask him, this is a 25-year-old, what is the one thing that is like ingrained in your head from living with your mother for 20 years? And there is a father, but I'm the one, obviously, who, kind of taught him all this. He will say writing things down. He's like, I do not know a world where I never wrote things down. He is my writer downer kid, like still uses a planner at the age of 25 because he said it's the only way. Now, I'm not here to sell planners, but John, I'm just kind of bringing your point home that the writing really does solidify it. So yay for that. All right. I love that. Okay. Let's do 2 more questions and then we'll take a break and then I'm going to do something else. Okay. Number 1 tip to motivate a student. Let's change to motivation. We have a kid that just is like, right? Does not want to get off the stick, is having a hard time. And I'm going to start with you, Sarah, because you did mention initiation. So what's your number 1 tip to motivate a student?
It's kind of similar to what Keith said. It's breaking things down in really small chunks. And so, even something, maybe they're a college student and they have 2 hours or 3 hours of like religion reading, like even just having them do 10 minutes in a day and that's it. And then we build up over time. And as the confidence builds, then they become motivated. Like motivation really comes, I think, from confidence. It's not like the other way around. But what I'm hearing you say is biting off the small chunks. Really small. It not only helps to build the motivation, it also helps them to build strength. Yeah. And
right? It's like endurance almost.
Stamina.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That was what I was looking for. See, John, that was what I was looking for. Okay. So John, I'm going to segue to you. What's your number 1?
I would say know your why. What's your end goal?
Ooh.
Right. So, that helps generate interest, activates the brain. And then I'll say it again, post it everywhere. Right. So it's all over, it's in front of you. So when you're losing motivation, when it's getting hard to start, you'll see your why there. And it can be just a simple message that makes sense to you that you wrote. And then it activates your brain to remember what your end goal is, why you're doing this.
So I want to clarify that. It's why are you doing this, or the end goal? Do you mean like?
It's the end goal. So
okay.
If you have certain goals around, you have certain academic goals, athletic goals, music, whatever your jam is, right? What's your why? What's your goal? What's motivate? That provides the motivation.
So it's almost like what we call, it's called like thought travel. Like, how am I going to feel when? So that's like, I'm keeping my eye on how am I going to feel when I'm done with this too, right? Like, I'm going to get this goal accomplished. I'm going to feel really good. I'm not going to face the consequences that might be staring me down. All right. Key. Number 1 motivation.
Very similar to what you said is, helping them see the future benefit of following through and the consequence of not.
Okay. But how do you do that? because I know they're going to ask me. Meaning,
so-
I'm pointing to this. They're going to ask me.
So it's asking questions, right? Like as a parent, it's asking the question. It's like, I don't want to do, okay, well, if you don't do it, what will happen if you don't do it? If you do it, how are you going to feel? What's the benefit of getting it done? Just a lot of times I feel like students they get so overwhelmed and stuck in their head. And that if you can sometimes bring them back down to level and just asking them questions like, what's going to happen if you don't do this? How's that going to impact your grades? How's that going to impact how you feel about yourself? All that type of stuff.
Can I challenge you?
Sure.
So what I'm doing right now is doing what they all do to me, meaning I give a webinar and these are the questions. And so I'm looking at all of you here. I'm answering you. Don't drop this in the chat because I know what you're asking. So you're saying that and the kid goes, I don't care. I don't care.
But you got to take it further then, right? When they say, I don't care, it's like, okay, well, you don't care. What do you want to achieve? Like, if you don't do this and you don't care and you get this bad grade, how does that going to impact you in the future? Like I think a lot of coaching, especially kids who are struggling academically or just need the academic support and have that, like John said, they don't have the growth mindset, they have the fixed mindset, right? If we don't come at them from me, I'm big on social emotional learning. That's my thing.
We're going to get there.
So, it's really asking them the questions and you have to help them understand. Also, asking them what's going to work for them. How do you make it collaborative, right? How do you, what's the consequence of this and what do you need to do to make it work? Like, if you don't want to do it this way, okay, but you understand if you don't do this, this is not a good consequence. How can we get to a good consequence in a way that you're comfortable with? And that could be many of the strategies that, Sarah just shared for sure.
I agree with you on that. So I'm going to actually go right into then the second part of that question is how do we combat your tip for combating procrastination? And motivation and procrastination are not the same thing. They're not. They might look the same, but they're kind of not, because you could be unmotivated and not be procrastinating. I want us all to hear me say that. So I'm going to actually define procrastination for our benefit. And I am also going to shamelessly plug my book because it's all about procrastination in students. And the first thing we do in the book is we define it, because if we're not all on the same, if we're not all working with the same definition, then we're all on different, literally and figuratively, pages. So how I define procrastination is this, and I keep doing it, I keep looking at my phone. I want you all to hear me. We tend to think of delay as procrastination. Not all delay is procrastination. Procrastination is putting something off or not doing it at all. And that's where most of us stop. We think, okay, that's procrastination right there. Like he's not getting it done until tomorrow or 2 days or 4 days later, but that's not procrastination. Procrastination is putting something off or not doing something, knowing that there is a consequence on the other side. For there to be true procrastination, there has to be a consequence to the action. There has to be, I want you all, like it does, that kicking a can down the road doesn't live alone. There has to be a consequence for it to be true procrastination, which is why it looks different than motivation. So I'm actually going to take this one. I'm going to say that my absolute first tip and this is not a specific, it's a little like, 36,000 level view is to come at it a different way. I'm always about what's getting in your way and not what is the like consequence of it. It's more like it's playing that I spy. And this is for parents, like what is getting in the way? Because there's always something in the way. So is the assignment too big, too hard, too long, too vague? Do they not understand what it is they're being asked to do? Are they being asked to do it at a time where they have no energy left to do it? So it's really figuring out what is that barrier to entry, and how do we remove it? So that's my answer. So John, what's yours?
So it's all connected to the motivation, but I absolutely agree with the distinction of the difference. So is to have a plan, right? To know where you want to go and write that out and then connect it with your whys. So you always have it in front of you. You can turn to it. You know what your goals are. You know what your plan are. It incorporates what we talked about today, chunking things down and having timelines. But it's a tool that you can turn to. So when you're avoiding things, knowing you have the consequence, you can see there with the why and where you want to go.
I'm going to challenge you now because I haven't even opened the chat yet, but I know this is in there. What happens if my kid doesn't have a why? What happens if my student doesn't know their why? What happens if my student doesn't care about their why?
Yeah.
Or
So
a
a
why?
couple things.
I know that that's, you know, like I hear that
Yeah.
all day, every day.
That's where coaching comes in, right? Because you're helping uncover and you're helping unlock that why. They're there. They don't know, they may not know, they may have not thought about it, but you're helping them unlock it. And you're helping them unlock the plan to get there. And that's laddering back up to what we all sort of agreed with, like, how do you best operate? So it's helping uncover those things that are buried inside of them.
Okay.
And then helping them show a path, but a path that makes sense for them.
Okay, good. Sarah, I'm going to go to you. Procrastination. What's your thoughts, honey?
So in some ways it's similar, but I'll give some other examples with like breaking it down and making a plan. So whenever a student gets a new assignment, we always like go in and make sure we understand exactly what the assignment is and actually like, so if it's a writing assignment, we paste the directions into a Google Doc and make like a question answer outline for them to see the questions. And when they weren't stated as questions, right? We made them questions from how the teacher wrote directions. And they know if they have questions to ask the teacher before they even jump into it. Or if it's a math assignment, we see how many problems there are. Does anything look confusing? So they know if they need to get help. And really this takes like 2 to 5 minutes max, even if it's like a big paper.
Sure.
And procrastination mostly goes away when they know what they're jumping into.
Okay, I like that because I like that that's something very specific and very tangible that they can see. So that's just great. Okay, John. I'm not John, I'm sorry, Keith. I apologize.
That's okay. Well, I definitely agree with removing obstacles. I think that's the number one, right? Don't go at it looking for the path, try to figure out what's in the way. I mean, that's key. I do think building in rewards, not buying a new car. I mean, I'll give you a simple one. Like I have ADHD, right? I struggle. You know, if I have to write content for social media and I have like a thing of pretzels next to me, you know, I'll write like 2 paragraphs before I'm allowed to have a couple of, like, I'm always giving them little bit, but it works. Like, you know, it's like if you have math problems and you have 10 problems to do and you got a banana there, well, guess what? You don't get to take a bite of that banana until you do your first problem. And, you know, trying to.
The banana is really the reward.
Well, but building in rewards.
I do that.
Even if it's drink, you know, you drink whatever it is, like just, but also the other thing I was going to say too about procrastination is I think a lot of students, I speak because I have a son who struggles with this too. He needs sometimes that looming pressure, that deadline of looming pressure to get motivated. So what I've taught him to do is like when he has a paper coming up, I will tell him the day you get that paper, do the organization, figure out what you're going to write about, get it done, get it on paper so you can put it away. And if you need to write that a little closer to the date, because it's just how your brain's going to work, at least you have a plan. If you try to plan it right before the night before, now you're stressed, now you're anxious, you don't have any plan, you're going nuts. But if you know you're going to wait, just make the plan and then just put it aside and get to it when you're ready. But at least you have a plan.
So there's a lot to unpack in what Keith said. So there's the old school of calling what you said functional procrastination. I don't agree with that because, again, I feel that there has to be a consequence. So I don't even agree that when you're waiting, let's say for 2 days or see the deadline, that's procrastination. That's what works for your child. And I have a very quick but really good story where this was years ago, and it's rare, but I was working with a student and the parent, and it happened to be the mother at the time, and he was 16, and it was Friday, and it was a long weekend. And the mother was like, I don't understand. It's Friday, and this thing is due on Tuesday, and he has all the time this afternoon, and he won't do it, and he won't do it. And she was going on and on. This is her, not me. And he very quietly turned to his mother and he said, "You can yell at me at midnight of Tuesday and not a minute before. That doesn't work for me." Now, that's not, in my world, that's not a procrastination, but that's like your point where he had a plan. His plan, he was going to sit down on Monday and just knock the whole thing out. That's what he wanted because, and maybe it's a little risky, but he's done it before and it worked for him. And I'm a big believer in not fixing what's not broken. So I am completely in agreement. The other thing I wanted to say about what you said is one of my favorite procrastination strategies is separating the setup from the task. And it's almost similar to what you just said, John, about, I keep calling you John. I don't know what's with me. I'm so sorry, about getting organized and getting it all that way and then not working on it. And I will even do that with students for homework because we have a lot of students who come home and they are not in any way, shape, or form ready to engage in what I call high effort, which is homework. They can get themselves prepared. So maybe it's opening their books, pulling up their assignment, taking out their planner. They have one, popping the popcorn or putting the pretzels because I need a snack too and I'm working, and then walking away. But now what happens when it's time to come to it, the bridge has been built. Then what you're also doing, and I'm telling this for you all to listen to me, is I firmly believe that having to be 100% motivated and rely on our own motivation is needless, right? I feel that we can lighten the load and share the load with our environment. Our environment really helps us lighten the load. It says to us, Keith, come in here. This is where you need to be right now. It does that. With if you have a fun, bright office or a great workspace, or your stuff is sitting out, or your earbuds are waiting for you, your music is ready to go. So I feel that I have seen that's separating the setup from the task has really helped a lot of my students with that procrastination kickback. So I wanted to share that. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I think we're going to take a break from my cues. And this has been like going. So I want everyone, I don't know if we're going to, so let me open this up. Okay, why can't I open this up? Ah, here we go. All right. Okay, everyone, just bear with me because I am not usually on this side of the questions. Okay, okay, so this is a long one. So here's what I'm also going to say to everybody, and I apologize, I should have said it. We don't know your student, and so it's very hard for us to give very granular answers about your own kid. In fact, it's actually harmful or could be potentially harmful for us to give you advice that could backfire. So if I don't answer your question, I'm not being rude. It's just that we don't know them enough to be able to answer something that's that intimate. Okay, this I think we could answer like on a 36,000 level. So Martha writes that she likes the idea of having her 12-year-old, oh, this is my study thing, the see, say, hear, do. You guys know that that's how I do my study quadrants when it comes to school projects, but she has no idea how to have that initial meeting to apply it to a project. But it's not applicable for a project. That's for studying. That's how I get kids to pick their study tools. So I'm going to move on from that. Okay, here's a question. This is from Carrie, and one of you can take it. I've helicoptered my two 18-year-old high school students their whole lives, and both have ADHD. Is it too late for us to repair from the anxiety of how we parented? Who wants to take that?
It's never too late.
Anybody else have a little bit more than just, I agree, it's never too late.
It's never too late. And I think it's conversation, right? It's recognizing, I always say this, sometimes when you share with your kids, like, look, I'm anxious because I worry, because I care about you. And you actually let them know why, what what triggers you to be on them, they will understand very differently why you're being like that. And they might even open up and talk to you more and be like, look, this is what I need from you to help support me. You might actually get more out of them from doing that.
I agree with that. John, I'm not asking you just because I don't feel like every question needs 3 people, but I agree with you. I think that actually the communication, because, particularly because they're 18, you can definitely sit. I'm like talking to my phone as if she's here. Because I feel that at the age of 18, you can actually really get down and dirty with that conversation and say, you know what, maybe I didn't do everything right. I tended to helicopter more than I should have. You should definitely come to this. Who was this, Carrie? You need to come to this. Absolutely. But I agree with you. I think you're super honest, and I almost think that it repairs a lot. And I don't think it's ever too late. We have a lot of parent coaching clients that all their kids are in college. I know people think that's funny, but I would tell you that the parents that we coach one-on-one all skew older. Hey, my kid's in college now, and I'm trying to learn the dance. I'm trying to learn the balance. I'm trying to learn, where do I pull back, push in, where is that line? Or to quote me, how do I set parameters and have my child negotiate them? So I am all about that. You know what? And on that note, we're going to take a second. The next question I had for all of you was, what is the one phrase, listen up friends at home, that you would like parents to avoid saying to their student? We're going to make this quick. What's the one phrase?
I'll go. Because I said so, because I think kids need to know the why behind things. So I really hate that phrase.
I hate that phrase. Hate it. Okay. Keith.
Why anything? Well, why didn't you? Or anything that starts with why automatically puts them on the defensive and makes them feel shame, and they want to please you.
Plus, you'll never get the why. So you might as well just stop asking it, because it ain't ever going to happen. You will very rarely ever get a why, an answer to a why question. I like that. John?
I'm going to invoke some sports because that's part of my theme tonight.
Whatever you want.
Just do it.
I love that. So it really is this whole variation on the, right? It's like the just do it. You can do it. I'm assuming it's not, and I'm going to even take it further, John, it's not hard. Just start already, right? It's all of those information. And I'm actually going to, we're not here to sell you anything, friends. We're celebrating our 20th. I wanted to bring you these fabulous coaches so you hear what we do, but there is an amazing webinar we did last year called The Overwhelmed Student. And it lives in our parent education library. And it talks about all of this. It talks about when we speak, even though we think we're saying something completely innocuous, what it does to our kid, how it sets their right brain off, and it overwhelms them and makes them anxious and makes them lie. And it talks a lot about that fight, flight, freeze, and fib. So if that is something that interests you, I will drop that in the comments and let you know where you can absolutely find that. All right, we're going to go back to questions. But I thought that was a good segue because she was asking about repair. And I believe that repair, I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time pulling up the chat. Oh, here it goes. Repair starts with your language. Would you agree with that? Coaches, would you agree that repair for your child starts with how you speak to them, not the other way around?
Speak to them, not at them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's see if I can. Oh my God, there's so many. It's like last year, we were on for an hour and a half. Okay, let's keep going. Is watching. How can I help my 4th grader do his homework? Okay. I would give a couple of tips to that. I'm okay with that. That's a very okay question. What do you think I know my answer would be movement. I have a 9-year-old kid. I would be moving him around the house. I would be putting him in the bathtub. I would be doing math in the bath, science on top of the toilet, English under the. I would just be moving that kid all over the place. Any way you can make it tactile and anti-boring. What do you guys think? You agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the answer to that. Okay. just because we have 1,000 other questions. And I'm going to say this to all of you. There are 250 Dear ADHD Family Coach columns that sit on our website that are there for the reading. I will guarantee you, I will bet dollars to donuts that all of these questions have been answered also in some form in a column. This one, the homework one, we have homework videos, there's homework webinars, there's homework articles. So I really, really appreciate, I really invite you, I should say, to check out our website. We say that our website is the hardest working member of our team. Okay, wow. How do you teach? Okay, Maura. Hi, Maura. I know Maura. Oh, you know Maura. What about when it's the kid's anxiety that is getting in the way? Motivation isn't enough. Keith, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah. So, I think kids that struggle with anxiety, I think they tend to sometimes just try to push it off, because they don't want to deal with it. I think it's actually really important to engage in it and talk about the anxiety, what they're feeling, why they're feeling it, and help them work through the feeling and through the emotion. Because when they can do that, they will oftentimes realize that what they're being anxious about is probably just, it's self-induced and it's not as bad as they make it to be. But in the moment, especially college students, right, or even high school students now, there's so much pressure on them that when that anxiety kicks in, it's like they get trapped and they can't get out of it. And
They
actually
get stuck.
taking a step back and working through it and help them see, look, like, what are you really feeling anxious about? And almost trying to help them realize like what they're feeling, they're actually more than capable of what they think they're not capable of. And I think if you don't ignore the anxiety and you actually address it and talk about it, it's a lot easier for them to overcome that.
Okay, that's a great answer. And on that note, I'm pinging back and forth between their questions and our questions because I thought your answer and Maura's question was actually a great lead into the question that I wanted to see answered tonight, which is one thing you wish parents would remember about their time as a student. I'm going to start with you, Sarah.
Sure. I think it's how exhausting it is, especially these high schoolers, they have this long school day. And then when you went and did sports and then you get home and you have dinner and you've been going for 12 hours and then it's 7 p.m. and they're sitting down to do homework. And as an adult, you don't have a 12-hour workday and then sit down to do more work typically. And yet remembering what that was like, because that is what we're asking a lot of these, especially high school students to do. And they may have 4 or 5 hours of homework that they really couldn't have prepared for because these teachers don't always post it ahead of time in high school. So just remember how tiring the grind was and how hard it is to do it when you're that tired.
I think that's great. John, what do you think? What would you like parents to remember?
Somewhat similar. It's not easy by any stretch of imagination being a teenager or a young adult, especially in the 2020s. It's just really hard right now. So, it's just having that kind of understanding for where they are.
Okay, Keith, what do you think? And then
I'm speaking for my generation, but I don't ever remember, and I wasn't a horrible student, I wasn't a great student, but I don't ever remember coming home and having 4 hours of homework and all this pressure. We are living in a completely different
I agree with that
environment. And these kids have so much more on their plate than we ever did. So I think sometimes we just forget that. And, we did it. How come you can't do it? But
exactly,
it's not the same.
I will agree with that. I'm going to answer you that question because I think this is a little bit of a different spin than all of you. I want you parents to remember that high school or middle school is the only time in your life that you were ever expected to be good at everything. And I think that's really important. And I've said it before, if you've ever taken a webinar with me, I say that because, and I don't even put college in the same category because college to me is very self-selecting. If your child wants to go to college, I am absolutely not a believer that every kid should go, but if you have a child that wants to go to college after high school, they might say, I'm not going to a college that I have to do a foreign language requirement, or I'm not going to a college that requires math. So automatically it becomes self-selecting, if you think about it, meaning that they're going to somewhere where they're going to be working or going to classes that they enjoy and that they want to be at. So I really need you all out there to remember that this is the only, I mean, I don't know if any of you were here at the beginning. Tech, I'm not good at it. I got people to do it for me. No one is expecting me to run it, right? So I want you all to remember that middle school and high school, only time in all of our lives that we were ever expected to be good at everything. And that is just impossible. All right, back to the cues. Oh my God, there's so many. Okay. How do I help? Well, this is from Chris. Oh, much better. How do you help the students create deadlines within the project deadline? I know what I think I know. I don't know actually if Chris is, I understand what Chris is asking. Like the project deadline is X. Now, how are we creating? What does that look like? And actually, you know what, Sarah? We were going to have to talk to you about structure and routines. And so maybe we'll kind of segue to you a little bit to talk a little bit and answer that as well. What do we think?
Sure. Yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, often it's backing into it. So, you know, the first step, I always talk about, you get the assignment and you lay out your plan, right? You write out step by step by step, and you know this when it's assigned and you know when it's due. And then, you know, you're looking either in your planner or your calendar, how many days you have, and there's total days, right? And then there's available days, right? Maybe you're going away. Maybe you have different things going on different nights. And that's how you can kind of decide where the deadlines need to be. And we always try to give extra time also. So because sometimes things take longer, you may have to ask for help. So try to build in time with those deadlines. Yeah.
Right. We need to pad the time.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay, great. All right. Let's go to one more questions. I can find, I know everyone's saying we didn't even talk about the whole social media piece that our kids face now. And I'm going to be blunt. That's a whole webinar for another day. Like that would get us down like a massive rabbit hole. But I'm actually going to take a break on the questions and turn to you, Keith. We were going to talk a little bit about how important do you think social and emotional? And I think this is a really good segue to this, considering what people are asking. How important do you think social emotional learning is today, especially today? What do you think?
It's vital. I mean, listen, you can be great at all these different subjects, but if you don't know how to be kind and empathetic and understand your own emotions and how to manage your own emotions, and again, not to get into social media, but
you can.
They're exposed to so much more. I mean, the information that and half of it's right misinformation, but the amount of information that comes across to them on social media channels, the comparison that they create, especially girls, right? There's so much comparison on social media. It increases the stress, it increases the anxiety. Everybody posting where I'm going to go to college, where I want to go. I mean, it's all out there. And, you know, if you're that child who just struggles with that, so to me, teaching kids, I mean, yeah, we need to teach them subjects. We need to teach them how to be smart. We need to teach them skills to use in the workforce, but we need to teach them how to be kind. We need to teach them how to be
resilient.
Yeah, we need to teach grit. We need to teach resilience. We need to teach the power of failure. We need to teach them, you know, regulation, right? With social media, like there's a lot of benefits to it, but you've got to be able to regulate it, right? Because it impacts their mental health. It absolutely, the biggest pandemic right now is not COVID-19. It's youth mental health. It's insane.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm actually, listen, I think those of you that have been around with me for 20 years know that I am no BS. I'm not. I am never rude, but I am feisty. And I'm going to always tell you like it is. And I also like to share resources. There is a great, it's on Instagram. It's called Wait Until 8. I'm happy to write. And it's all about like, they're all about waiting for the social media, the cell phones, and all of that thing, this pressure of giving our kids things younger and younger and younger. And they pose this question about, would you send your kids, like you have curfews for when your kids are out at night, you have curfews, right? 10 a.m., oh my God, 10 p.m., like come home, depending on their age. You have curfews. I'm going to call a parent. If you're going to a party, I want to make sure the parents are home. We have all of those rules. Why are we allowing our kids then to be out with our phone day and night? And it's a really interesting way of looking and having that conversation. So I am going to invite you all to check it out. It's called Wait Until 8, and it also spews a lot about kids' mental health and social media, social emotional learning, all of that stuff. So it is absolutely one of my favorites. So
I just want to add one more thing to that.
add
'cause
as
it's
much as you want.
important. You know, neurodivergent kids, like it's so important for them to recognize like what their superpowers are. Like there's a lot of things that they can do that other students can't do. And it's important to hone in on, recognize like, you know, everybody, and it's for any student actually, everybody has their power. Everybody has there's something about them that they just really excel at and that
Yeah.
they can support others in with that. And it's important for them to recognize it, but especially neurodivergent kids. And like, again, I speak about like, you know, my kid plays drums. He can look at a video of somebody playing a song and 10 minutes later, he can do it. Like most drummers can't do that, but
That's my
that's
kid.
something he can do. So
Yeah.
all these kids have their own unique talent. The truth is, if they feel good about who they are and kids are kind to each other and supportive of each other and empathetic to each other, it builds their self-confidence. And if they feel good about who they are, it actually builds their academic success. It all ties in together. If they feel like
You can say it. We
full
did.
without a word about themselves,
Yeah.
it's going to be in their brain, the anxiety, the stress kicks in, and they're not going to perform. They're going to perform so subpar to what they're capable of. So it's so important, social emotional. I really believe
Amen to that. That's all I'm going to say. Amen to that. All right. One more question from me and then we'll go back here. One reason you feel a student lies? John,
Wait, say that again?
one reason you feel a student.
Oh,
See?
Is that
I don't know what that was, but that's okay.
is
One reason why you
that the
think
Greek chorus?
one reason, yeah, one reason why.
Hey, yeah, I think it's an easy out. It's easier to take the consequences than to do the work.
I think what I agree with you. I think what you're saying is that for what sometimes what we're asking a student to do might be too hard. And so lying and accepting the consequence is that much easier. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Sarah, what do you think?
I mean, you know, the other day we were talking, Keith gave that same answer. I mean, it really is, I think the lying is, it's just the easier thing to do. Like most of the time, that's just the simple reason.
I agree. Keith, what is that from one of you? Okay. Keith?
Listen, I think our kids, all they want to do is make us happy and please us. And I think when they do something wrong or they don't do something, I think there's shame there and they don't want to disappoint. So, you know, it feels much worse to feel shame and disappoint than it is to lie. You know, they don't realize eventually they're going to get caught and they're going to feel that way anyway. But in the moment, you know, it's this overwhelming sense of I've disappointed my parents and I'm going to lie. And it's not because they're bad. It's because they feel there's some shame there that goes along with it.
I like your answer because I think it balances yours, the two of you, which I agree with 100% that when I tell a parent, actually, sometimes it's easier. A kid is, I ask my students all the time, why did you lie? They're like, what do you mean why did I lie? It was so much easier to lie and take whatever consequence or no consequence than it is to do what you've asked me to do. But there's another reason why I think your kids lie. And I think you all need to hear me because I told you I was going to be the one who was going to be a little tough. Sometimes your kids lie because of the way you react to the truth. And I think that's a big one. If you are not reacting to the truth in a way that makes your kid feel okay, I'm not saying you can't parent, but if your reaction to the truth is what it is, they're going to lie. And that's a different thing than something being hard to do. It's, again, it brings the parent into the equation of how are you reacting to the truth? What's the parameter in your house when your child does tell you something you might not like, but at least they were honest? Are we okay there? What are we agree? Okay. So that's good food for thought. I think that's a really good food for thought. Okay. We're going to go back to their questions. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to stop for a second. I cannot believe it's been an hour and I've gotten through literally 9 questions. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep going, but we are going to have a cutoff. Last year we did about an hour and a half. What I want to say to those of you that only budgeted for about an hour, please do not freak out. This recording will go till the very end and it will live here in the Facebook group. So if you don't get to the end, if you can't stay, just come back and watch it whenever you can. But all of you, I'm going to repeat it again for those of you who came in late. We are celebrating our 20th anniversary actually today. And we are going to give away an hour of free coaching with the coach of my choice. You do not get to pick that. If you want to win that, you need to email, scroll back up to one of the first comments. Our email address is there. Do not drop it in the chat because the winner needs to be picked. Just send us an email, write 20 in the subject line, and if you were chosen, you will get notified tomorrow. Okay. All right. I'm moving on. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to find a lot of people just commenting. I love that. So I'll share those too. One of the biggest obstacles to getting started on or focusing on schoolwork at home for the kids is their phones. Okay, TikTok, social media, YouTube are too hard to break away from. Minutes and hours slip away. What do you recommend for combating this? So I'm going to tie this into one of the questions we were going to ask and talk about digital control. So why don't we start? Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends on the age, but I think trying to teach the students, well, like some of the students will just have them try to put the phone like by the door of the bedroom while they're working on certain things and they can go back. Like I'm a bigger fan of trying to teach that because once they go away to college, unless they're willing to keep those digital controls, it's not going to work anyway. And this just comes that you want them to learn while they're in your home, not while they're on their own.
I 100% agree with you. I am not about digital control, especially in high school, because I feel, remember I said my thing is willpower. Got to have willpower. They have to learn it. So, Keith, what do you think?
Well, I definitely agree with Sarah about age. I think if they're younger, like middle school, I think you can absolutely be like, give me your phone when you walk in the door and like, you'll get it back when you're done with your work. I think you can do that. I think when they're in high school, college, obviously you can't, but I do like to use the social media against them as well. And that's a perfect, because they, of course, they have that FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? Like, my friends are going to text me if I don't answer back right away. So I always will tell them, you know what, your phone goes in another room when you're working, but as part of your procrastination or as part of staying motivated, you know what, you do X amount of questions, you do your homework for here, you can take a 10-minute break and go check your phone and then you come back to it. So using that almost as a reward, even though it's not something we want them to doing, but they're so engaged with it and it's so hard for them to let go. So almost telling them, well, you can do that if you do this. So it's that sometimes helps with the procrastination and the motivation.
It does. I think it's a rational response. John, do you have anything? I mean, you don't have, if they said everything, don't feel like
No, it was all very well.
They covered it. I feel that definitely that there are controls. Like kids will say to me all the time, oh, I need my computer. I know that, but you don't need TikTok while you're working. So there are things you can do, but I'm going to just put this out to marinate on it. I tend to think that a lot of the social media like dance becomes apparent sometimes. I know you're all going to hate me by the end of this, but remember, I'm the one like being this way, that it's parents not wanting to set boundaries. My parenting philosophy is and always will be that it is up to you as the parent to set parameters and it's your child's job to negotiate them. And as they get older, those parameters get wider, but it must come from you. And I know I get a lot of that, but there are no buts. You are the parent. You have the right to parent. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to natural consequences that make sense. And so I feel like this whole digital dance starts actually with parenting.
Can I say one more thing on this too?
You can say two more things.
Sometimes we differentiate between different apps. So some students, they may be able to go on Instagram, but not TikTok, like as a break, or YouTube. So it's part of the coaching, right? Is like talking to them and figuring out where they get lost and where they really can take a 10-minute break. And that's learning themselves better. And that's better than controls you throw on the phone. Yeah.
I 100% agree. Okay, let's go back to okay, I'm trying to find questions. A lot of people just really, they're just giving me, which is fine. They're just chatting. Okay, here we go. let me see if I can do this. Middle school has been such a tough transition for us. Okay. 6 was hard with having so much missing work. 7th just started, and organization and time management is our focus. Except I'm more dedicated than my son as far as getting things on the agenda and getting started on homework. It's a battle. All right. So anybody have one tip? Just one quick, like middle school, lots to hang on to, lots to process. Who wants to take it? Sarah, I'm looking at you. Because this, and actually let's segue into what I was going to have you talk about, which is to build new habits and structure in a student's day. I feel like it completely aligns.
Yeah. So I'll jump into habits and structure, but I also think you have to set some natural consequences and let them be some failures around it. So part of middle school is when you're starting to learn to have these multi-step assignments. So I think it's great to start setting the habit. You always want to start really small. It may be just learning how to take a planner out in each class. So they write something down, and they may forget for a while, but if you keep reminding them daily, that will start the habit. And then that habit can grow to they come home and they take their planner out and they add to it. So as those habits, those little habits that stack on top of each other grow, it will get easier for them. And then the structure is setting times around at home, like when they're going to do some homework, when they're going to have breaks, where they're going to do it. And it can start small and build. And, decide what those natural consequences are. Like if they don't get the homework done, they may have sports practice or friends they want to hang out with, and they don't get to do that stuff, but set those boundaries and just kind of let your student figure it out with your support, not your criticism, I guess.
I like that. I like your use of natural consequences that make sense.
Yeah.
I think that's very key here. And I'm even going to say the antithesis could be if you see your child doing something like setting that routine and keeping to a structure, rewards are, and do you guys mind if I talk about rewards for a minute? Do you mind? Do you all mind? I'm sorry. This is so funny to me. Do you guys mind? Okay. I want to talk about habit building because I think that when we talk about all of this and we have a kid that is actually, let's say, motivated to do things that actually, or doesn't know, remember, there's motivation, there's not knowing how, we've kind of covered all that. But what we're really talking about is building a habit, right? To your point, Sarah, and the way a habit works is there has to be a cue first. So what's the cue? What's at your kid's point of performance? What are they seeing? That's where I talk about the setup and the task. What are they seeing that's going to prompt the routine or the habit? It's really the routine. So there needs to be a cue. And then there's the routine. But what has to happen to solidify that routine is there needs to be a reward. And most of us think, and this is maybe for not even, that if something happens really great on Monday, that we can say, you'll get the keys to the car to go see your friend Johnny on Saturday. So I'm even talking about older kids now. I'm not talking about ice cream, I'm talking about like keys to the car. What you don't realize is your neurodivergent child is not seeing Saturday. They are like in the now, like right now. And so your reward needs to be immediate. That's number one. For really to solidify it, your reward needs to be immediate. But number two, your reward actually would be better off being emotional. And I know Keith is going to shake his head at me and go, that's right. We think of rewards as tangible. 5 minutes on the computer or ice cream, or I don't know, pick something, whatever. Believe it or not, for your child, a reward is not hearing you yell at them. Sorry, it's true. Not staring down the wrath of a parent or a teacher. It's also hearing you praise them and saying, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. You opened your planner all on your, I don't care. If your kid is never opening that planner and they opened a planner, there should be a marching band and a freaking parade. But you guys know I speak like that, but it's true because, I didn't get backlash. They actually noticed, they observed, I didn't get yelled at today. But those will go a lot further to solidify the routine. And you guys ask me, not you ask me all the time, why is my kid developing bad habits faster than good habits. Because imagine what happens. The bad habits are easier to do. If your child is doing something and gets yelled at, that's not going to build a habit. He's going to be like, ugh. Or I don't want to do this. I'm going to default to my phone. I'm going to default to TikTok, or that's a reward. That's an intrinsic reward. So that's why we build bad habits faster and more frequently than we do good. So that was a little bit of, but I think that's important. I think because I'm trying to bring the parenting piece into this all, that we need to look at rewards as emotional.
We got to model it.
Yes, 100%, Keith. See, one word. I'm chatty, and you just did that in one word. Okay. What's your favorite time management tool? I'm not even going to talk about mine, but you guys can do yours. What's your favorite time management tool? I'm sorry, John, you go. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, I like the Pomodoro method.
Okay. Do you want to explain it so that people know what you're talking about?
Sure. I mean, it was created by this Italian guy, and the reason it's Pomodoro because I think his clock was shaped in the shape of tomato, and Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. But basically, it's allowing you to hyper focus on a task that's timed, right? And his timing structure is around 25 minutes, and you take a 3 to 5 minute break, and you do it again, and then you do it again, and maybe a fourth time, and then you take a much longer break. And the idea is that you have that much time to complete that task, and you identify what you want to do, and when that time's up, that's when you're finished, and you take a break, and you identify another task, and you do it again. And so, it it can have variations. It could be 23 minutes, 25 minutes.
It's going to depend on how old the kid is. Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of my go-to things for me too. Like when I'm feeling a little stuck or I don't know where to go, I'm like, just turn on my timer. I use 23 minutes. So I just do that. I turn it on.
That's
and
great.
It gets me focused. So I like that method a lot.
I like that too. Keith?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer, right? I love a planner, whether it's digital, written, but oh my God, I lost my train. I had a good one. It just totally went out of my head. So I'm gonna defer to Sarah if it comes back.
You can say a planner. I'm sorry. I'm not being rude. I'm trying to there it goes.
No, but I had something else and it just.
So maybe you'll come back to it. Sarah, what's your favorite time management tool?
Yeah. Any tool that lets you see your time. So it could be even a digital calendar, color coded. The planner, actually, a lot of the students, I do like the bottom section of the planner will write in everything not normal, but they just need to be able to see their time.
Okay, you took mine. I'm actually going to show you mine. Can you all see what's behind me? That's an analog clock. And if you've ever heard me speak, you know that every house, every room your child spends time in needs to have one. Because to Sarah's point, they need to see their time. Okay, Keith, was that yours?
I remember now. Yes. So what I love to do is ask them to give 10 things that how long does it take you to do your homework? How long does it take you to study? Ask them how long it takes them to do it and actually making them time themselves. And it's amazing. I love that. Yeah, they're like, oh, wow, it took me because if they're not going to believe you if you tell them that, but when they actually see for themselves, oh, it took me double the amount of time. They can't argue with that logic, right? And then you can talk to them about strategies to manage that particular piece.
There's so much goodness in that, because what I love about that too is what you said, they can't argue with the data, right? So it's not you or you at home. It's here's what it says. I didn't make this up. So I love that. And it goes back to that whole theme of seeing your time. And even John, the Pomodoro, what I like about it, as long as it's, flexible, depending on the age and the kid, is they see time. They see a beginning, middle, and ends. Because our mantra here is always, we work time over task. Your kid should never be this whole notion of go upstairs and do your math homework before dinner can really put your kid into a tailspin. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Time, if you're saying 23 minutes, it's concrete. I am okay. We are going to take one question, and then John, I'm going to go to you. There was a good question. It's just doing it on my phone is just really tough. So I am apologizing to you all. Okay, I'm trying to find the question. You know what, John? Why don't I do this? So we're going to skip to you, John. I want you to talk a little bit about, we've talked about the generalities of being a student in the 21st century and how stressed and how they have to be good at everything and how the world is very different for them now than when us. So let's add on top of that, that we have an athlete at home, right? High school or college, and they are now not only staring down everything else all these other kids are doing, and I'm not talking about, I'm talking, as you know better, a kid that is practicing every day and going to away games all weekend long and all of that. I'm going to let you talk about it. What do you think? How can we best support them?
Yeah. No, they have to manage their time and energy differently, right? Because they have, as you said, they have practices, they have games, they may do stuff on their own. And I think Keith or Sarah were saying, like, they have these long days. These are 12-hour days already, right? And it's not only the time management, it's the energy management.
Oh, I like
right?
that.
So you have the physical, the mental, and the emotional that comes with it. So you're not just gassed because you swam 6,000 yards or you ran 10,000 meters or you football practice for 2 hours, right? There's the whole mental thing that comes with being an athlete. And then there's the whole emotional. Like, you go through these games, they're emotionally taxing. So it's a lot, right? So a couple things, tapping into that goal-oriented mindset, right? And to help students translate the same discipline they have on the field, right, to their studies. Okay, so a lot of athletes are very goal-oriented, right? I was a swimmer, so it's times. Like, we have meets and you win races and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's how fast you swim, it's how fast you run, how many points you score, the goals, the wins, etc. Like, it's good to be goal-oriented, and you post that stuff all over the place, right? And then you can be able to translate that into their academics and have these goals and set strategies of how to use your time more effectively, and essentially, how to find ways to do more with less, because they do have less. That's one of the unique features, because
like that.
they have less energy and they have less time, right? And I'd say another thing that's foundational for me is sleep. A really good sleep routine. That's for everybody, but especially for athletes, right? And having a good sleep routine affects you positive, has a huge halo effect. And staying well nourished. It's really easy to miss meals when you're a teenager. It's really easy to miss meals when you're in college.
100%.
But when your energy levels go down, like, your brain doesn't function and your body doesn't. And that's not going to be supporting your needs as a student athlete.
I am so glad you brought up the food thing, because I am a real believer in that mind-body connection, and food is medicine. It is. I'm not saying anything wrong there. It is. Food is medicine. So I love that. All right. I would like to give you all a question, because I love this question. This comes from Michelle. How do we deal with the fact that our students with ADHD are less mature, and, I guess she's quoting me, sometimes could be up to 3 years younger than their peers? It's not 3 years younger, it's 30% less their chronological age, I think is what, Michelle, you're trying to say, is that if they have ADHD and executive dysfunction, they're going to be 30% less that chronological age, more or less. It's not obviously a thing, with whatever it is that they are struggling with. So she's saying, my 18-year-old is having a hard time with managing his time, even with 504 accommodations in a community college. So what do you think? Anybody? So I'm going to give it to you, Sarah. I'm going to let you take it, and only you, because of the interest of time.
I think you really have to meet them where they're at. And so great, they're at community college. They still just may need more support, which is where there's coaches here, but the community college may have coaches there that you could use. Right. There's lots of resources. And so, there's certain accommodations that are helpful with the 504s, but you often need to take it further and get them more support than that. And there are cost-effective ways to do that with the schools. You just have to put the extra effort in to find out what they are, with supporting them and learning how to plan their assignments and plan their time and break it down. And Yeah, and be like a part of the journey with them, to meet with their advisors and to meet with the people at the community college to get that support that they need.
I agree with you. I think that and I think what you're also saying, because somebody mentioned that helicopter parenting, there's a very big difference being a helicopter parent and a scaffolding parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we kind of need to know the difference there. A helicopter parent is the one swooping in on that situation and saying, I'm going to call the school for them and I'm going to take care of it all. And honey, you don't have to do anything and I'm going to work it all out for you. And that's also sending a message to your student that they're not capable. But I always equate scaffolding to the circus. So, you know, if you've ever been to the circus and they're the trapeze artists that are flying high, like freaks me out. I'm so nervous, right? I watch like this. So what I do, because I can't watch them, is I watch the people underneath who are holding the net. The four, right? Each has a corner. They're scaffolding them. And it's very beautiful and metaphorical. If you think about it, it's allowing them to soar to new heights. Knowing they have, right? Isn't that pretty? All of a sudden one day I was like, I like that. But it's very visual. And I actually talk about that to my students. I give that as the visual. And I teach parents, give that as a visual. There are these like, and this is a good one also if your student is refusing help. Because they're not in the way, they're underneath, they're standing back, but they're there to catch. And it's allowing these acrobats to like do things that they couldn't do if they didn't have that net underneath them. So I liked your whole answer. Okay. I think what we're going to do is we are going to get one more question in and wrap it up, because we will be going on an hour and a half. And I think I want to end with this question. How do you teach a student? I'm going to have all of you answer this. How do you teach a student to advocate for themselves? And I like this question because I believe, going all the way back to the top of what defines success in a student, or what is a skill a student needs. And I said that they need to be able to ask questions. That's my definition of advocating. I always say you don't have to have the answer, but you got to know how to ask the question. So how do you do that? The three of you, my favorite coaches, how do you do it? How do we teach them to advocate?
I'll go first. So I'm going to connect it back to that first question that you asked, Leslie. So I would empower them to put themselves out there, right? Let them know it's okay to fail. Let them know it's okay if it doesn't go their way the first, the second, or the third time, that you're always learning from the process, right? And that you're getting much closer through that learning process to achieving your goal, whatever that is. And then to your point about scaffolding, knowing that your parents are there to support you throughout the whole journey.
Right. Or it doesn't have to be a parent. It could be somebody at school I just want to make that like, yeah. Oh, right. That doesn't always have to be linear like that. All right, Sarah, I'm going to let you go.
Okay. For me, it starts with, when I work with students, it's supporting them in emailing teachers questions when they have a question, and going to either meet with teachers during free periods in high school, before and after school, or office hours in college. And as they do that more, their confidence builds and they have deeper conversations where they can advocate further for themselves.
I think kids have it great, but they can email. We had to go stare at someone face to face. So an email again, is that barrier to entry is a little bit easier to get initiating, because it's a little bit easier. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And you may need to, especially for students in high school, like it's okay to let them try to write it and then give them the words, because it gets easier over time. So like, don't be afraid to like give a lot of help in the beginning. And then as time goes, they get so much more comfortable with it, is what I would say though.
I agree so much. Keith, I'm going to let you have the last words on this question.
So very, very similar to what Sarah said, right? About recognizing the need and also the consequence, right? Of not asking for help. But I think building relationships, tapping into their vulnerability, understanding it's okay to not be okay, be good at something and need the help. But I also try to always tie it into the future. It's a leadership skill as they mature, right? People respect a leader who's willing to take responsibility and ask for help, right? Like we know, like you said, right? Tech is not your thing. You're going to get somebody to do tech. If you pretend that you know tech, everybody's going to see you're not good at tech, right? But I also think it's
Kinda
really,
did. Right.
but it's really important to realize their own deservedness. That they deserve what they need, and they shouldn't be afraid to ask what they're entitled to and deserve, especially neurodivergent students, right? Like they have IEPs, teachers have a lot of kids. It's not intentional. Sometimes they just don't, they forget.
Mhm.
And, if you don't, man, let me tell you, man, like my kid, like if you told him he didn't get his extra time, he'd be all over you, right? He knew he needed it. So, but they deserve it. And teaching them like the power of deservedness and just about vulnerability, and asking for help is not a weakness, but it's actually a very strong skill, especially if you're going to, as you grow up to be a leader, if you want to be a leader.
I love that. I also think it's a skill you need regardless of what you do after high school. It doesn't matter whether you're whether you're working or you're going to a program or you're in college. You need to be able to, and sometimes I couch it. I don't always say it's help. Sometimes, and this is if I've connected with a student and I see what's kind of going on underneath, I'll say sometimes it's asking for clarification, asking for understanding. And those words are a little bit less emotional maybe than the word help, right? Like sometimes I find, and maybe we'll chat about this for a minute, because we didn't do the question, and maybe this is how we should end, is the benefit to student coaching. As well, we're coaches, it's a coaching company. So I like that because sometimes I will see that certain words trigger a kid. The word study triggers a kid, the word help can trigger. So finding those non-emotional words that are very like, okay, right? What do you need to do to get clarification? What do you need to do to get understanding? What do you need to do to get, sometimes takes that barrier to entry away. Okay, so we're not going to end. I lied to all of you. Why do you feel oh no, we did that one. Tell me what you feel is your number one benefit to coaching. That really should be how we end this. And I'm going to start with Keith.
Oh, again, I think accountability, but in a non-judgmental, supportive, and loving way. We're not, listen, we're not the parent, right? Like it doesn't matter. You can be the most supportive non-helicopter parent, but you're still the parent. And when you tell your kid what you want them to do, many times they're, oh, I'm not listening to mom, I'm not listening to dad. When you have somebody they're working with who can hold them accountable, but it's clear like we're coming from a very different angle. There's no judgment. We're not here. I think that accountability piece, and also having somebody they trust to help them or reach out or ask for that help, because if they're comfortable asking you for help, you can teach them to ask others for help. So I think the accountability, in one word, I think accountability is huge, but coming from that non-judgmental place, it's the most important part. You can't hold somebody accountable and make them feel bad. You've got to hold them accountable in a way where they understand you're doing this because you care, and what the benefit is by listening and being accountable.
100%. Okay, John, I'm going to have you answer that. Benefit to coaching.
Develop lifelong skills and confidence.
I like the confidence piece a lot. Sarah.
I was going to say confidence, because I
Say
think
whatever
the
you want.
best, I think the best thing the students get is that confidence in themselves, that they can do hard things and they can fail and pick themselves back up and they can figure it out, and they have the grit to, like Keith talked about. I mean, the skills like Keith talked about earlier are like just the most important life skills that let you figure everything else out. So, yeah.
Okay, so on that note, you guys can there's no more questions. We are going to wrap it up. First of all, so a bunch of things I want to say, and the first thing is to you three. So I find that a lot of times people think I do Order Out of Chaos alone. Oh my goodness, no, not in the least bit. There is a whole team of people that you don't see and that never want to be seen, but these three must be seen. They are some of the most brilliant, smartest coaches I've ever met. And I'm even going to go on the fence and say they are way better coaches than I am right now, because they are in the trenches. And I so appreciate you being here and giving such thoughtful answers and responses to these questions. And what I'm going to say to you all listening is, we are not, I'm very upfront, this was just to kind of give you we're starting the season, some peace of mind. What does success really look like? How do you maybe even communicate with your parent? However, I see it already. There are some coaching questions. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. That info@orderooks.com email will be your best friend for anything you ever need. Always go there first. And if coaching is something you're interested in, drop that in an email to us, and our community manager will set you on the right path and journey to starting that. That's number one. Number two, I really meant what I said about our website. There's so many people that join us here in the Facebook group, which is amazing, but have no idea we have a whole website. We actually have two websites. One is our Order Out of Chaos and one is our products. And I meant what I said. There are articles and blogs and videos and podcasts and products that are all there for you to help you help your student be successful in learning and in life. So I want to make sure that I invite you to go to our website. And then again, 20 years later, I never ever take that lightly that you showed up. You had a million other choices tonight. So that's why we come and we bring our A game. So I thank all of you for being with us. A lot of people have asked me today if I'm done, like 20 years. And I'm like, no, not done. Things might look a little different in the next year or so. And we'll tell you things that we're doing as we do them. But no, and I said this at the very beginning for those of you that came up late, 20 years later, we still are so in need of like this connection and this community and conversation. So until nobody shows up, I'm still going to be here with all of them. So on that note, thank you all of you for being here. Please, please do not forget about this. This is going to, and yes, there will be plenty of time in Dr. Stickerud's presentation for Q&A. I know you guys like that. So I hope to see you on October 4th for our Q&A here, and then again on the 30th. All right, everybody. Thanks again. Have a good night.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. And if you want to be notified when a new Dear ADHD Family Coach episode drops, make sure to hit that subscribe button.